All right. Obviously, really proud of that football team that's in that locker room. Gutsy performance today. Battled, play in and play out. We talked about it earlier in the week. The offensive scheme that ODU runs, stresses you a little bit. Hats off to ODU. They battled. But really proud of the players' competitive spirit. Really proud of their next play mentality. Really proud of them embracing the process of just play the next play. Really proud of them embracing the process of, finding a way to execute well enough to win. I think today was a great example of team football. Offensively, we did some really good things. Special teams-wise, we did some really good things. Defensively, at times, we did some good things. And then there were times on all three where we can be better. Offensively, we probably had way too many turnovers and way too many penalties. That stuff makes these type of games a lot closer. Defensively, way too many missed tackles. And that end up turning into explosive plays. Special teams-wise, we got some penalties in there that pushed us behind. But that's the battle. I told them in the beginning of the week that this will be the toughest game on our schedule, thus far. Not because of just who the logo or the opponent was, but because of the circumstances, right? You're in game 4. You've already had a bye week. You're battling a really tough opponent. Every year we play them, this is that type of game. The leaders heard it. It's the big letdown. Somebody told me at the gas station, don't hope the players don't lay an egg. Well, there's your egg. We picked it up, and it's part of it, right? I get it. But that's a good football team. And are there some things we got to get cleaned up? Absolutely. But the players battled. They battled well enough today to get the win. Coaching staff did a really good job of adjusting. There were some things we wanted to do that ODU had showed that they didn't necessarily go to. We thought they'd throw it a little more. They ran it a little more. Obviously, I understand why. So we made some adjustments. Kids, didn't bat an eye, didn't get frustrated, made the adjustments, made the plays when they counted. So with that, I open up for questions.
You get down 21-3, and it seemed like you just kind of kicked it into a different gear. That return on the kickoff from Jaden Harrison, did that kind of spark some momentum for you?
Yeah, we talked, Friday, actually, that special teams was going to need to make a big play at some point, right? Just because when you have two teams battling like that, the hidden factor in that is special teams. ODU has a really good special teams unit. We challenge the guys on special teams. We got to make a big play, whether that's in the punt return game, whether that's in the coverage game. We've challenged those guys, and they stood up to the challenge. Jaden's done a really good job for us. We haven't necessarily blocked perfectly for him all year, so some of it's been a little muddy. But he sprung a big one there, and that was just enough to get the guys going, And it was one of those deals where we were down 21-0, or was that what it was? 21-3. But we never really felt like we were down 21-3. We just felt like we were missing some opportunities. And I think, again, that's the process, focusing on us. Is what they're doing, defeating us, or is it something we're not doing? And even when they came to the sideline, we're not executing. So the mentality or the mode on the sideline was never, we're 21-3. It was we got to execute. Now, as a head coach, I was getting a little concerned because that type of offense, you don't want to let them get too far out in front of you. But I still felt like we were just not executing, not that we were getting beat or not that we were down. So obviously when we got the return, the offense kind of got going a little bit. That sprung some momentum, for the defense, came up with some big stops, which started the rally or the battle. So, yeah, I would say that Jaden and the special teams unit did a really good job of kind of stepping up when both units were kind of in flux, kind of getting adjusted. They stepped up and made a huge play.
Coach said that tailback was really elusive. That's part of what he was doing, but were there some breakdowns on those long runs of his? Or just?
Yeah, it's a combination of things. There were some things we were trying to do because they spread you out so far. So you only got 5 guys in the box. Well, you got 5 guys to block 5 guys. So you're trying to play the game of playing multiple gaps and still be able to play 5, because if you bring extra guys in the box, then they're going to throw it on the edge. We felt like we wanted them to run the ball because we felt like obviously it's easier to stop the run than it is to pass with what they do. And there were a couple times that they did a good job of blocking. They cut us off, which creates a seam. There were a couple times that they did a really good job of adjusting their scheme based on what we were doing. And then there were a couple times the ball gets in space and we got to tackle it. And it's a tough thing to do, but you got to tackle it. we get a couple of them on the ground, we probably are in a different scenario. Hats off to them for consistently adjusting, and making those plays. But it was a combination of things. A little bit of what they did, hats off to them. Combination of us not executing completely. Not that we were going left and right, but just not executing completely. And then a combination of, pure flat out, you got to tackle the guy. That's been an issue that showed up for us. Part of it is a little bit when you're coming from 12 yards back. That's a tough thing to do. But you still got to execute. So really, hats off to them. The guy made some people miss in space, which you got to do it as a good running back. We finally kind of got to some things scheme-wise on the back end that kind of put us in a good spot. That adjustment that we made at the very end of the game, where we kind of had JJ kind of roaming. We didn't want to do that early because, well, what side do you roam to? Later in the game, we kind of said, hey, this is the best thing to go to, so we can add an extra hat to the box. And he ended up making a huge play at the end of the game there and sealing it off.
That pick six kind of changed I thought kind of changed the game for you guys, momentum-wise.
Well, it changed the game for my heart rate, for sure. Big plays and big moments, and it comes from just executing. We had called that play 2 or 3 other times, and we didn't get everybody executing, and they end up getting, a positive gain. And that time, everybody executed because the guys that are covering the other guys that make him throw the ball into that coverage or that look. Earlier in the game, we didn't cover those guys, so we threw it somewhere else. We settled down. We made some adjustments. Beautiful catch and run. You talk about, just pure athletic ability. Really good job by Eli Austin. But again, it's back to base execution, and we've got to do more of that so that we can get ourselves out of these situations where we're, battling the, back and forth on each side of the ball.
Grant mentioned this was the most all-purpose yards for Cam in a game, but did you see him take a big step forward with how he was able to bounce back from some of those early mistakes?
I won't say he took a big step forward. I see him every day in practice. The guy's special. Does he have a lot to clean up? Yes. Are you going to put yourself in some scenarios when you don't? When Ali's taken away, it puts a little bit more on the throw game. I thought today, he was probably a little bit more consistent than he was last week. He didn't feel great after last week, rightfully so. And he worked his tail off this week, and I think today he showed up with his legs. I think he showed up, making really good decisions, made some big-time passes. Obviously, we'd like to have, some things back, don't get me wrong. But that's what he gives you. You got in college football, the teams that have quarterbacks that can run are usually pretty efficient on offense. It is what it is. That doesn't mean that guys that can't run, aren't good, but it changes what you do. So if teams are going to play stop Ali football, you got to have some type of other, answer. And that today Cam's legs was the answer. They dropped 8, put everybody into coverage. He made really good decisions, took off. Those 4, 5, 6 yards of carry are huge because now you're not in 3rd and long, which we got to get better at. But when we're in that 3rd and, less than 5 range, we got a lot of options. And I think Cam's ability to, kind of keep us balanced, because he becomes Ali when they take Ali away, if that makes sense. The ability to keep us balanced really helped. The middle linebacker is a good football player. I know we all know that, but he made a lot of plays today that if he ain't there, it changes the game. Really good football player. Obviously, we got to do a better job, preparing to kind of figure out how to take those type of players away. But, the guy played, I don't know how many tackles he had, but, 16 tackles.
That's average.
Yeah, that's really good. It's about what I had in high school when I played. I was a dude. You guys didn't see me, though, because I was lower level. The reporting there wasn't great. We didn't have huddle, but, yeah, it's tough to get 16 tackles. I know. I've done it, so. But no, hats off to him. Really good football player, man. Really good. And our guys battled. We knew it wasn't going to be a game where, Rasheem's going to come out and rush for 260 yards, but we knew we could come out and run the ball as a team. And that was the game plan, run the ball as a team. I know everybody wants, Ali to have 100 yards and 8 touchdowns. That ain't it. We want to be able to move the ball efficiently. We want to be able to run the ball as a team, however that is. And then we want to be able to put points on the board, which I thought we did a good job of today for the most part.
About a guy like Caleb Coombs, one of those guys that has been, consistent in practice and finally gets a chance to flash the ball.
Yeah, I think, again, he's a high school guy. So what happens sometimes with this new transfer portal, the high school guys' development get a little bit slowed, you know what I mean? Just because you can't necessarily get them into a game or you can't necessarily get them the reps in real live game experience as you need to. And he's just kept working. He's been really consistent in practice. I think it showed up, you've seen today. He took advantage of his opportunities. He did some really good things last week. We were able to build on that. And again, he's just taking strides. I think Daryl Simmons is another guy who's taking strides. The receivers as a whole, did a really good job of getting open, did a really good job of adjusting their routes based off of the coverage. Again, when you have a guy like Cam and he takes off, all of a sudden now you got a decision to make. Do I pull up the quarterback or do I stay in coverage? And that's the dual threat that you get. Obviously, we got to do a little bit better job of putting ourselves in position not to turn it over because that's how you get stifled. But really good job by Coons today, battling through. I think he's starting to show some of the things that we expected him to show. I know when we first got here, he was one of the first guys we signed, and he's worked. When you get in that transfer portal world, it just slows the progress a little bit. So we got to, he's coming along now, which is really good. I think he'll help us moving down the road.
Coach, back-to-back games now, you guys get a big fourth down stop with about a minute left to really seal the win. What is it about this team that you guys are able to close it out?
We close out Tuesday practice. We close out Wednesday practice, and we close out Thursday. Good on good. Some type of situational, you got to find a way to come up with a stop. You got to find a way to come up with a conversion. Obviously we'd love to kind of drain it out, a little bit. But again, you get stacked in there. You got really good linebacker, and you're trying to figure out how can we get an extra hat to block a guy. And just like we would on Thursday, defense got to come out in the 2-minute drive to end it. And they showed up. Actually, what happened in this game happened Thursday. Defense came up with a big turnover at the end of a 2-minute drive. So, again, trust the process. It works if they work, and they are working. That's why I think it's showing up. Now, don't get me wrong. We can't keep living on a prayer, no pun intended. But as long as we understand that what we do consistently throughout the week is going to help us on Saturdays, we'll get better. And we'll get better. I think you started to see more and more guys. Mason Pierce showed up today. I think you're starting to see more and more guys who are taking the process and building their conditioning and resume of good plays and consistency. Now that allows us to kind of spread some of the wealth, and we've got to keep doing that. We got 10 in a row. My concern as a head coach is just making sure we balance the amount of plays some of our good players are playing while trying to find a way to get some of these new guys some plays. But when you win, it's a little bit easier to go back and figure out, what we need to do to get better.
Any further questions?
Yeah, thanks, guys. Hope everybody enjoyed homecoming. Hats off to the fans. Our home slate to start this season has been phenomenal. I challenged you guys at the beginning of the year, told you we were going to need you, and you guys have showed up from the Thunder Walk all the way to the very end. I can't tell you how much this team appreciates you guys' support. We're going to need you, all the way through. So thanks. Hope everybody enjoys homecoming today and this weekend. Really good job by the administration. It's been an unbelievable weekend all the way back from Hoops and Huntington all the way through the weekend. So really good day for Marshall. Really good day for the Herd. Thanks, guys.